Vanessa, I'm so excited for everyone to listen to this episode, which I can only describe as delightful.
Totally. It was such a fun conversation, and I've never giggled so much in my entire life.
And who would have thought? I mean, it is an episode about penises, and so maybe there's some giggling to be had, but this is the best conversation because it balances incredible information, super fun facts that many of us, I didn't know a lot of these fun facts, and a topic, an anatomical topic that is often a third rail topic, the penis. So, I mean, I can't wait for our listeners to listen. Just a word about our guest, David, who is a PhD. He's a professor at the Georgia Institute of Technology, and he studies the interactions of animals with water. And he discusses that actually in the beginning of the episode. He gets into his whole path through his PhD and his dissertation and what he looked at, and then how he got to this book, The P Word. But what I love is this description of him from his bio. David has discovered how dogs shake dry, how insects walk on water, and how eyelashes protect eyes from drying. So now there are 3 more topics for us to invite him back.
I know, he's got to come back.
He is the winner of the Ig Nobel Prize in Physics. He won the National Science Foundation Career Award and the Pineapple Science Prize. His research has been featured, so many places: The Economist, New York Times, Science Friday, Saturday Night Live, and Highlights for Children. I love that he lists that. And he is just a phenomenal scientist / storyteller. We hope you enjoy this episode as much as we enjoyed making it.
Have fun. Hi, David.
Hey, Vanessa.
We're so excited to have you here. I'm holding up, the listeners cannot see, but I'm holding up this picture book that is going to become my new go-to preschool and kindergarten, first grade, early reader recommendation. It will be the gift I give kids and parents, regardless of their gender. It is called The P Word, a manual for mammals. And it is more than a picture book because there are a lot of words in it. But we're going to get deep into it because it's unlike anything that I've ever read.
Cara loves this book so much. She's like, David, I don't know if you know this, but she's like generally a fairly level person without a lot of like fluctuation. When she talks about this book, she's like losing her mind. And we're going to go deep into the book, but I will explain why it's so amazing and why Cara loves it so much, because it's the most perfect combination of science, storytelling, and explanation about things that people don't normally talk about, namely the penis. I mean, I live in a house with 3 boys, so penises get a lot of airtime. A lot of airtime. You have a son, and I want you to share, David, like the origin story of the book, and Cara has a son. So there are a lot of penises in our household. Sorry, I don't know if that's like an inappropriate thing to say. I hope it's okay. But nice people, but also they have penises. Because my kids use that as an insult too. So David, tell us about yourself. Tell us who you are, because your origin might actually be a little bit unexpected. And then we can talk about how this book came to be.
I grew up in Maryland, and
that's not the unexpected part.
I've been training in math and physics and engineering for my whole life. I have a PhD from MIT in math.
In penises?
And, there's a censored picture of 2 water starters having sex in my thesis, but I'd censored so you can't see any genitals.
It only took Vanessa 2.5 minutes to get you to reveal censored content. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But there will not be any profanity in this episode, David, because I want every single person to listen to what you have to say, including little people who should not be hearing me swear. So I'm going to censor myself today. So engineering, mathematics, what was your dissertation on?
It was how insects walk on water.
Oh my
Awesome.
God, how cool.
You'll have to come back and we'll do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, we built a robot that balanced stuff on the water, just like these insects. And they work totally different from boats. Boats use something called buoyancy. They kind of have a net density that's lower than water, so they float. But these insects are actually heavier than water. They're like metal. But if you can balance them really carefully, they use this force called surface tension. It's the same force that bubbles stay round. And when waves go across the pond, they generate these waves. But these insects, they can get as big as your hand. There's these giant Vietnamese water striders that are left over from prehistoric times that are really pushing the envelope for how big you can support things on the water surface.
Oh my God, that's so cool. So from insects walking on water to penises, it's a direct line.
But there was some mating pictures in my thesis. So
do they walk on water while mating?
Yeah, in fact, there's something called the safety factor. And the insects have to have a safety factor of at least 2 to make sure that they can mate, because they do everything on the water surface, including mating.
Huh. So it's like dragonflies fly and mate, right? And these insects.
Yeah, these water striders, there's about 1,200 species all over the world. I mean, they do everything. They eat, they sleep, they stand on the water surface, and all with this surface tension. So they've got to be able to, they have to mate there too.
That is so
safety
cool.
first. I like that it's called the safety factor. That speaks to me.
Yeah.
It makes Cara feel safe and calm.
It really does.
So
it's super slippery there too. I'm this because their legs are really hydrophobic. They're just sliding. It's like trying to.
Oh, that's so interesting. I always
when
think
you're wearing
of them
ice
as
skates. That's what that's basically what it's like.
I've never thought about doing that.
Yeah.
And you should not do that.
With a cross current coming at you.
I was just thinking about a slippery bathroom floor.
And fish trying to eat you.
It's like an obstacle course. Okay. So how do we get from that dissertation to a book all about penises and mammals' penises? Walk us through your journey, David.
Well, I've always been interested in biology, and even in middle school, elementary school, high school, we've been, me and the other people in my class, we've been talking about penises for a long time. But it really came to pass when I became a father. My son, I have a daughter and a son. My son was born 2011, so he's 12 now. I think I entered the sort of the realm of penis notoriety when I basically published a paper on how long it takes animals to pee.
Which is one of my favorite pages in your book.
I mean, Cara squealed when she got to that page in your book. She was like, "This is amazing." Never thought about how long different animals take to pee.
Because they have different, sized bladders. That's the vessel that holds the pee. For example, a human, we're, maybe at most 100 kilograms. But an elephant is 8,000 kilograms. It's like having 80 people in a room at once.
All peeing.
All peeing through the same hole. And you imagine if you have 80 people peeing through the same hole, it would take longer, right? Because it turns out elephants have smaller bladders than you expect. Their bladder is about 100 times a cat's bladder. So it's about 20 liters. It's like a kitchen garbage can.
Wow.
I never want this episode to end, David. I'm like learning so much. I mean, and what about, is there like a physics to it? Like the velocity? Oh no, was it velocity about peeing that's in the book, or velocity about, yes.
Yeah, there's no, isn't it the ejaculation speed that you have compared in the book? I mean, we're jumping way ahead.
Yeah,
sorry,
there's a table of different, sort of like the high speed club for people. There's sneezing, ejaculation, farting, and they're all in the club.
I mean,
and let me say, those are several of the favorite topics in our
house.
Yeah,
yes,
100%.
Correct.
So you have a son, and he has penis. And at what point did you decide to take it upon yourself to create an educational tool for everyone and their sons and daughters out there Was it that you realized at some point that there was nothing and you were trying to educate him? Were you searching for it? Were you like, how did it come about?
Yeah, I mean, kids, they talk about their body functions all the time. And on the internet, there's not that much really content that's appropriate for their age level and that's fun. The big thing is when any content that talks about the penis usually goes right into sex, but there's a whole, 20 years that they're going to carry this thing around, and they're not going to use it for sex, and they're going to have questions about it.
Yep.
So I wanted to make something fun because I think it's fun for them to talk about the penis. I mean, they enjoy it and it's a big part of their lives. And they also, sometimes they feel ashamed to talk about it and mention it, even though it's part of their body. So I wanted a book that was fun for them and would teach them some things and make them proud of being, a penis owner.
I was in a car with 5 13-year-old boys who love to pepper me with questions because they know I talk about puberty all day long. And they were like, so, like, is vagina a bad word? Can I say that? And I was like, no, guys, it's a scientific word. And they were like, what's the scientific word for penis? And I was like, penis. They were like, oh, so that's okay for us to say? And I said, yes, that's okay for you to say. And it's like they have internalized that you can't talk about it, or it's shameful, or you talk about it in a way that's like subversive, or that you're going to like make someone uncomfortable or piss someone off, or, like get in trouble at the dinner table. But really, what you're doing, David, is you are normalizing conversation about a part of the body in such a wonderful, inclusive way. And I mean inclusive in terms of like what it does besides its role in reproduction.
Well, and maybe part of it is because you start from the premise that it hangs outside the body, right? So there's that. I think that's what drives this confusion about, is it okay to talk about or not? It's this part of the body that's both visible and invisible. It's outside, but it's always covered and hidden. And it is the punchline of at least 40% of the jokes in a house with kids who are in middle school. I mean, there's just maybe
farts are the other 60%.
Yeah, exactly. I was going 60-40 on that.
What is David, very sensitive too. That's probably maybe part of the reason.
Very sensitive.
David, do we know why? Like, do all mammals? Because I want to get at this topic that you chose, that it's like about all mammals and their penises. Do we know why the penis? I know why the testicles hang outside, but like, do we know why the penises are engineered the way they are engineered? Not for the purpose of reproduction, like when they're erect and stuff, but like, I'm just wondering if we know anything about that.
Why
like
doesn't a penis
evolution.
retract entirely inside? Is that the question?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
So other animals besides mammals have penises. Snakes have penises. A lot of these animals, I guess you can say, they discovered that sexual reproduction is going to generate a lot more diversity and give them a lot of benefits really, really early on. So lots of animals have something that looks like a penis. Among the mammals, I mean, there's a lot of mammals that actually their penises are much more hidden. For example, dogs,
the
cats.
red rocket.
Oh yeah.
Or the pink lipstick. That's what they called in my house when the
never heard that
penis comes out. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it's pink,
that was not
for
scientific.
a reason. I mean, when they're pulling it out, it's like not like a gun, but they want people to pay attention.
Yeah. Oh, so
dogs.
the very shiny pink object emerging, yes, is visible for a reason. Right. Because there's monkeys. You said that have blue penises?
No, blue blue scrotal sides.
Blue scrotums and a red penis.
Yeah.
So
very patriotic.
That's a neon sign if ever there was one.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I interrupted you. So
So we're from primates, and
so
primates, like we basically use it for communication. I mean, like that red velvet monkey with this, red, white, and blue star spangled banner genitals. Those are meant for communication, and we let it hang out. A lot of primates, they communicate with each other through it. They touch it and things like that. They I mean, it's part of their social messaging system. Ours hangs out because we're primates, and the other animals that have it hang out also. Usually, it's for some kind of communication purposes.
So it's not just 12-year-old boys who use it as social communication with their hands down their pants. I have a 13-year-old, David. I'm not talking about your son. I would never assume anything about your own child.
Well, I'm sure he does that too. But yeah, these animals could basically, I mean, they never evolved language. Like they never evolved like complex, paragraphs and things like that. So the more ways they could sort of demonstrate nuance, they got to figure out if someone's lying to them, if someone really means something. The more ways they can do that, the better. And the better they'll communicate with their clan and other outside members.
And let's just start with peeing as a form of communication, because that's, one huge category. There isn't just the fact that the penis carries urine from, urine. I'm just going to do the quick walkthrough. You do it in your book beautifully so that kids understand where urine comes from. But the kidneys make urine, and then it's stored in the bladder, and then it comes out the urethra, and it is sprayed into the world. There is a fantastic chart in the book about how to be thoughtful about where you pee if you're a human peeing in a bathroom. Like if you pee on the seat, please wipe it up. I mean, so many gems in this book that are never, ever, ever in any book. I feel like I want to get it, to every award circuit out there. But you talk about spray in the wild. You talk about marking. I think about marking when I walk my dogs, but you talk about it with other animals. I would love to hear about that. And then how urine in marine mammals is spread in ocean water is another sort of form of communication and also nutrition.
That's right. So doctors call urine liquid gold because it has so much to tell about the body. I mean, think about the last time you ate asparagus and just an hour later, you smelt it. And that's only because asparagus has special molecules that our noses can detect. But dogs and a lot of other animals, they're not vision-based like us. Like we're descended from primates. We pretty much eat fruits, so we look with our eyes. But a lot of the animal world, the mammal world out there, they smell the world around them. And urine is basically one of the primary ways they can communicate. They can figure out the gender, maybe if an animal's ready for mating, what they ate, how healthy they are, who they're related to. So they're because it's liquid gold, they're very precious with it. They don't just throw it down the sewer. They put it in the most prominent places available, like you would put a billboard or a sign. And unfortunately, a lot of dogs find they want to put it in the same places. So like the neighborhood watering hole, like the same poor tree or the same mailbox. They'll all mark that same place, and they'll do it regularly to sort of broadcast their territories, their home ranges.
It always cracks me up. I'm like, don't you want to pick a new place? Like that corner of that building is like really gross at this point and overpopulated. Like, don't you want to strike out on your own and find a new place I mean, I lived in New York City for 20 years and I swear to God, it's just like the whole city smells like dog piss and it's all in the same locations. So why don't people do that? Because we're visual. And
we do. But we don't do it with our pee. We do it with like our billboards and social messaging and other kind of signs. Because that area is so frequented, they know all the other dogs are going to go there. And the whole point of peeing there is so other dogs can smell it. So it's like imagine you have that intersection with 4 gas stations or something like that.
Yeah.
That's how that kind of thing happened. And they've got to overmark. They've got to mark over the other dogs to sort of show their dominance.
It's like that why everyone wants to sit on the same table at the cafeteria rather than
it's 8th grade. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is.
And not only do they choose the same location, but they'll have to, there's a lot communicated in where the pee is. So dogs, for instance, will you've probably seen a 3-legged stance. They'll pee as high as possible. And they've shown little dogs, they'll contort their body in these strange postures to pee even higher. Little dogs will have to raise their leg higher. Bears and pandas are known to even go in a handstand to pee, 4 feet up the tree.
Oh, come on.
To basically make other animals sort of afraid for them because they, you pee at your spot 1 foot up, then you see there's a pee spot 5 feet higher. You go, oh my gosh, that's
such
panda.
a flex.
Oh, that is so fat. All I do all day is send my 17-year-old panda videos from Instagram, and I'm gonna need to find one of a panda standing on their hands and peeing on a tree because that's amazing. What about sloths? Because you have a sloth in the book. Well, like, how do sloths pee? Do they just let it dribble down their bodies as they hang there?
So if you're a mammal living in a tree, it's really important that you don't sort of give away your position because there are, cougars, jaguars, and things like that can climb the tree. Sloths, so their relationship with pee and poo is actually necessary for them to live. So there's a big controversy of how sloths actually get enough energy to live because they look at the leaves they are eating. They said, hey, these leaves actually don't have very much nutrition. And we're calculating it. They're only getting not even enough nutrition. So they should be dead, even though they're moving really slowly. And so they resolved this controversy by actually filming these sloths for their lifetimes. And they found that, so sloths will basically hold their feces in their bodies for an entire week. And on a weekly basis, they'll go down, they'll climb down to the bottom of the tree, which is quite dangerous for them. And they'll put their poop there and their pee there. And then they found that there's this species of moth that only lives in the sloth's fur. It's not found anywhere else in the world. And at that time, the moths go down and lay their eggs in the poop. And then every week they basically take this bus trip back down, and those larvae will hatch and go back into the fur. So now the funny thing is the sloths are not eating the moths. The moths live their entire lives in the fur, and they actually die there. And so you've seen all those algae that are growing on these sloths, like they're kind of looking green.
Yeah,
those algae are eating the moths' bodies, and the sloths are eating the algae.
Oh my God.
When I walk my dogs, I'm often very grateful that I'm not a dog, but now I'm very grateful that I am not a moth that resides on a sloth.
That's only that you need the poop to survive.
I mean,
that is like the worst freeloading situation I have ever heard.
There's nothing free about that freeloading situation. Okay.
So we've done pee.
We've done pee and poop a little bit. We've just touched on
which does
poop.
not come out of a penis.
No.
FYI for younger people.
That's
listening.
an entire lesson in anatomy for young kids.
Oh, yeah.
David, you need to do anuses next.
My daughter, she is saying she pees out of her vagina. I said, no, you don't pee out of your vagina. You actually pee out of your urethra. But she's 11. And I bet, to be honest, she's average for most girls. Most girls don't know.
David,
girls, adults.
Yes. The most shocking fact we share when we teach is that if you are genetically female, you have 3 holes. You have a urethra, a vagina, and an anus. People can't believe that fact. People of all ages. It is really remarkable.
Yeah, we need to have so much more education out there.
Well, you know what your next book is, David.
Vanessa she's pitching it right now.
You don't,
editors everywhere.
You don't pee out of your vagina.
Okay, so let's get to the sexual reproduction part of the book, which I want to start by saying deepest appreciation for writing about an organ and really focusing on the different jobs that it does without conflating those jobs from the start. So, the penis is extraordinarily important for pee, and that is a very big topic and could have been a whole book. And you almost didn't even need to get to reproduction. I'm glad you did, because you would have been missing the back half of the story, but they're different stories. So will you talk a little bit about, and this is something we teach a lot about, but I'd love to hear it from you. Will you talk a little bit about having one organ that has 2 totally parallel sets of responsibilities?
For the first many years of life and for the whole life, it needs to transport the urine out of the body. And one of the nice, I guess, design features about that is that because it's curved and it's long, boys can pee standing up. And they
jealous. So jealous.
I think there's a device that allows female soldiers to do that.
My sister was obsessed. So I'm one of 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. And my sister for many years was irate that she couldn't stand up and pee. So there was a certain point where she was doing a program in the wilderness, and my mom bought her these special cones that you could hold up, I guess, under your urethra, and you could pee standing up. I don't know how successful she was at using them. But you think there's something even more advanced now? Because I'm going out to buy it.
I think they were similar to cones.
Okay.
But that's an untapped market.
That is an untapped market. Okay.
Literally.
So after you write the book about vaginas and urethras, then David, we're going to create a peeing standing up technology. Okay.
Or at least some training. I think maybe with some practice, it could probably.
No,
work.
there's no practice involved. And honestly, even just squatting and peeing is really hard if you don't have a penis. I will say, Car, are you good? I'm not going to ask you this. I'll just share that I'm not good at it. And I've been camping and hiking my whole life, and I'm terrible. Okay, that was off topic. So one of the great things is with a penis, you can pee standing up. Yes, correct. It's amazing.
So near puberty, the penis's other purpose emerges, and of course, I mean, people are going to pee, 8 times a day, 20 seconds at a time for the rest of their lives. So it still has that primary purpose. And the testicles start descending, and they start developing the ability to make sperm and semen, and the penis exercises itself to get ready. So, I mean, that's what we talk about in the book. These erections, they're happening. And the penis has got to stay healthy. It's got to lift its own weight, just like doing its push-ups. So it finds the right time and does its own sort of body exercising.
So is it your understanding, because this is new to me, is it your understanding that spontaneous erections are at like the body's effort to prepare for reproduction, like as a way to kind of get in shape? Is that your understanding?
Well, it's kind of staying in shape. It's a large amount of blood. It's it's shunting all this blood and then holding these muscles. These sphincters are holding the blood in there. So the muscles need practice, and it requires some work. Yeah, I mean, that's what the doctors have said. At nighttime, that's when a lot of the exercise sort of happens the most.
There is this phenomenon called priapism, which is an erection that lasts too long. If there's a practice scenario, if you will, the practice of having an erection and then undoing an erection, both sides of the equation are very important. And we don't have to get too far into it, but suffice it to say that, an erection is not designed to last indefinitely. And and you describe in the book in very simple terms that I think are really wonderful, this maze of blood vessels in the spongy tissue of the penis. And the maze kind of fills up, but it's got to then release all of this blood so that it goes from being engorged to not engorged. And that's important because you need fresh oxygen flowing into the penis in order to keep the tissues healthy. So there's this whole, it's not just the act of the erection, but it's also the reversal of the erection is really important.
Yeah. I mean, the corpus cavernosa, it's this huge maze of tissues there that, makes the penis act like a balloon. But of course, it's not a balloon because it has it has urethra and all these other sensation, but basically has to inflate to many times its size. I mean, imagine, so we have another organ in our body, not just men, that's almost very similar to the penis. So the penis falls in the category of muscular hydrostat. What that just means is a kind of a balloon that's covered in muscle. And we couldn't have this podcast right now without our muscular hydrostats. That's your tongue. The tongue has to be able to extend. It's got to be able to curve and do all these sort of strange contortions when we're speaking. And it's also has no bones because it has to be super flexible like that. So we spent a couple of years figuring out how to use our tongue to speak. So the penis has got to have its time to sort of, get the blood in there as well. Elephant trunks too. They're also another example of a muscular hydrostat.
Oh, that's so interesting.
The entire trunk, almost 2 meters long, evolved out of something similar to our own nose to be engorged with blood and extend. And elephants, I don't think they call it an erection anymore, but they're using their nose. But they can extend their nose by almost. Imagine your arm couldn't reach something; they extend it by 20%. By.
Oh, that would be so convenient.
for the upper shelves. Wait,
Yeah.
David, so just to clarify for anyone listening who does not know this, even though there is a common term called a boner, aka the scientific term is an erection, penises in human beings do not have bones. But there are other animals whose penises do have bones, which I did not know until reading your book. Can you talk about that distinction?
That's right. So, yeah, our primates, we evolved from animals with no bones. They are very stiff because the sphincters are working very hard and squeezing and holding the blood in there. But a lot of animals, I think dogs are an example, and bears, they have something called a baculum, a penis bone. They're actually highly prized by collectors. They're you can buy them. I think they use them for toothpicks and other kind of utensils out there.
Oh my
I guess
God.
you get two. You can use chopsticks or something like that. It's very rare to have a single bone in the body. Bones usually come in pairs. Ear bones and everything else. But these baculums are there because animals have all sorts of interesting, sexual rituals. For example, lionesses, sometimes they have to have sex 100 times a day.
Oh my God, that sounds like my worst nightmare.
Well, they only have sex for a couple seconds at a time. So don't worry.
That's all right, David. My husband doesn't listen to the podcast, so it's fine. I can say whatever I want.
So imagine if you're a lioness and if you're a lion with a pride, you have maybe 10 lionesses and they all go into heat. They each have sex 100 times a day. A balloon probably not just going to cut it. You're going to need to have a bone in there.
But so then they never go fully flaccid. They're always somewhat erect if they have, for animals that have a bone.
Yeah. Luckily, they also retract it into their bodies. Like the red rocket you mentioned. It stays in its it stays in its launching pad until it's ready.
I just want to state the obvious. You are a fantastic anatomical storyteller. Like this, some people think science is dry, and I just want to say, if
not when you're talking to David,
100%. If you think science is dry, you thought wrong. This is amazing. So without reading the whole book on this podcast, and essentially we have walked through the whole book,
yes, but it's like you have to get it. It's so good.
Yeah, it's a must read. But it's sort of, can we land in a place where you tell us how your 12-year-old son feels about you being the author of a book about penises? Because I'm happy to share how my 12-year-old son felt when I was the author of a book that had an erection section. And I wonder if, he's now 18 and he's over it, but I wonder if you had the same reaction in your house.
I told him I was writing this book, but when I brought the finished product home, he read the entire thing, cover to cover. And he's formed a little club. Our fencing coach has 2 kids who are much younger, and they're not old enough to read it, but their father reads it to them. And they're addicted to this book. They ask every day, "Can you read the P word? Can you read the P word?" Because they're actually, his kids actually got in trouble at school for pulling down their pants and showing off their penis. So they wanted an outlet to explore it, and they needed this. This kind of validated their sort of exploration, their spirit, so it's part of their household now.
I am so jealous. That is an amazing, amazing reaction.
Wait, David, how did your daughter react?
Okay, part B.
She's flip through it a little bit, but I don't know if I haven't talked to her too much about it. I'm not sure if she read it, but I think the fact that he's talking about it less to her, because usually he just brings up the penis all the time just to sort of talk about it in front of her. And now that he has a place, he's kind of like seen that movie, so he doesn't need to sort of talk about it all the time. So I think its things are good.
Well, once you write your book about how you don't pee out of your vagina, she's going to be right there. They're each going to have their own movie to talk about. I mean, I wish this book had existed when my kids were younger. I cannot wait. I'm going to like scatter copies of it all over my house for anyone who comes to visit. It's amazing. It is amazing. And here's what I love about it. And we tell listeners this all the time because people always ask, how old should my kid be when I start talking about penises or vaginas or consent or, anatomical body parts or any of that? And we always say, start as soon as you can. Like they can never be too young to understand the names of their bodies and how their bodies work. And kids love understanding the science. I think adults really underserve kids by assuming they're not interested in understanding how things work and the science behind them. And when kids have the privilege of understanding the science, they are like so psyched and so engaged and so fascinated. And you've given people a gift in explaining all different kinds of science in a really accessible way. I mean, this is the ultimate bedtime reading, the P word.
And the adults who are going to be reading it to the younger kids, they are secretly learning. These are things, right? These are shameful topics that shouldn't be shameful. These are things that were never spoken about in most houses. And even in the most open homes where everyone talks about everything, there are fun facts in here that take everyone by surprise. So it's a fun read. It's a necessary book on the bookshelf. Do you have a youngest age that you would recommend it for? Down to kind of age?
Well, my fencing coach's kids, I mean, they were 3 and 4 and 4 and 5.
I was going to say 3. I was going to say preschool. It's perfect.
I think the pictures, they can be appreciated. And it's a good word for bonding. I mean, parents can read this. It's not very long, but it's got some concepts that are just going to wow them. I mean, how do pilots pee in an airplane? What do they do? How do astronauts pee? How different animals have penises. I mean, I think every kid knows what a cat is, and they'll know what a cat penis looks like from this book.
And thank you for explaining why cat urine smells so bad. Thank you for that.
I was like, no wonder it smells so bad.
They've got to accumulate all the stuff that went on during the day. It's like the Twitter's got that 40 character limit. Pee, unfortunately, does not have any such limit. It's packed full of information.
What's it called? Urinine? What's the special cat pee ingredient?
Oh, yeah. I have it on this page.
Felanine or something like that?
Oh, yeah. Felanine. Yes.
Felanine.
Yes, that's really...
exactly.
So but they're also really good at getting out there because they can evert their penis or their genitals, but they can basically make it into a little spray gun and spray like large portions. Like they have like at zoos, they just spray the entire wall. So rather than just a little puddle, imagine you have it just coated over like 5 times the surface.
I'm going to choose to use the word fascinating instead of disgusting. But by saying fascinating, I mean a little bit. Ooh.
It's just the smell of cat pee. They can do whatever they want. I just don't like the smell. So anyways, David, that's not your problem.
Oh yeah, they're very territorial. I mean, they mean business with that pee.
Yeah, it's just another way that cats are like secretly ruling the world and controlling us all. David, thank you so much. When you're ready to write the next book, let us know, and we will have you on to talk about
the V word.
The V word. Yes, I mean, and
maybe it's the U word.
I don't.
We've got to get the word out.
We got. You're the best.
It's the 21st century.
I wish you need your own TV show where you just talk about, and every question I asked, which I didn't know if you knew the answer to, I was like, I didn't think the sloth question was going to like take us down that amazing rabbit hole. And I'm so happy because that's the other thing that I send my son are videos of sloths. David, we're so excited for the book. Come back and visit us with anything you want to talk about ever, because you explain science in the most fun way. And it is such a treat. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks, Kara. Hope your days are filled with penis joy.